Okay, welcome. Welcome, everyone. I'm Winona Bateman. I'm the Executive Director of Families for a Livable Climate, and I'm one of the moderators this evening. My co-moderator is Michelle Ubaraga, who's with Moms Clean Air Force and Park County Environmental Council over in Livingston. And we're very excited to be hosting this webinar this evening. This webinar is hosted by our organization, Families for a Livable Climate, Moms Clean Air Force, and Montana Renewable Energy Association in partnership with the Montana DEQ and the EPA. And it's an educational webinar about the federal funding available for Montana schools to transition to cleaner transportation, air, and energy for our kids. And it's intended for everyone who's interested in championing these efforts for your kids, school districts, and neighborhoods, with the focus being on solar panels and electric school buses. So as we go along tonight, please type your questions into the chat and we will get to them when there are windows. And I'm going to hand off to Michelle.
Thanks, Winona. So my name is Michelle Ubaraga. I live in Livingston, Montana, she/her. I serve as the executive director of our local grassroots conservation group called the Park County Environmental Council, and then get to do fun climate stuff with a community of parents across the country called Moms Clean Air Force. Moms Clean Air Force has more than 1 million members and moms all over the country in communities that are working to protect our children's health and tackle climate change. So there are communities all across America, of course, that are working together to clean up their schools and take advantage of these really great opportunities. So I have the opportunity to introduce our speakers. We have a really great crew today, and our goal is to create a resource. We can learn about what resources are available, and ultimately we want to hear stories. And so we wanted to hear stories from folks on the ground, boots on the ground, that have successfully implemented some programs in schools, and then hear from both EPA and Montana DEQ on the funding opportunities available. So I'm just going to quickly tell you who our panelists are and kick it off. So we have Sam Spector, who is joining us from Sweetgrass County High School over in Big Timber. I've heard that Big Timber is even windier than Livingston. I don't know if it's true or if it's a contest worth having, but maybe Sam, you can confirm or deny that. And thank you so much for being here. And then we have Alicia Jongward, who's a former lead teacher at Livingston Park High in Livingston, and she's leading the Park High Green Initiative here, which is a group of high school students who launched a recycling program and got solar panels on their school and have done so much. And they've really all done that with the support of really great community and Mrs. J, as they fondly call Alicia. And then we have Bethany Aaron, who's a transportation director at West Grand School District in Colorado. Bethany, we hear you're having some internet. We're so glad that you were able to join us. Nice to meet you. Really important to hear from folks on the ground in schools. So we really appreciate you all making time to be here. And then we have some experts. We're joined by McKenna Sellers, who's the executive director of Montana Renewable Energy Association in Helena, Montana. And Neil Ullman is the director, works at Department of Environmental Qualities. He's an energy resource professional. Neil is the guy that every question I have, I pick up my cell phone and Neil answers. He's an incredible resource. Neil, thank you for always being available to answer questions, show up for our teachers and our kids. We deeply appreciate you. And then we've got Courtney Johnson and Marissa McPhillamy with the Environmental Protection Agencies and their Clean School Bus program. We're really excited to have a growing relationship with the EPA so that we can continue to share resources and learn more about their expanding program. So thank you so much for making time to join us. And I'm going to pass it right over to Neil to kick us off. That's right. Winona, to Neil first. Okay, take it away, Neil.
Thanks, Michelle, and thanks for that generous introduction. Again, Neil Ullman with the Energy Office of the Montana Department of Environmental Quality in Helena. Each of the 56 states and 50 states and territories have a governor designated energy office. And so we're it for the state of Montana. We do a host of different things on the energy efficiency, renewable energy, clean transportation sides. I'm going to try and cover some of those quickly. I was also asked to talk about a U.S. Department of Energy program that recently was open for funding, and how to set your communities up for applying in future funding opportunities. So the first thing with the U.S. Department of Energy, they had a program recently called the Renew America's Schools, and it could be for a host of different types of projects depending on what fit best for the school. It could be energy efficiency, solar panels, clean transportation related things, more efficient lighting, which can save so much money for schools. In January, there was a deadline to submit a concept paper. So your general idea, I guess, on what it was your school wanted to do. DEQ with some other federal funds we had for stuff like this. We set up some technical assistance for some school districts that wanted to pull together a concept paper, but simply didn't have the capacity or technical expertise. We're happy to help provide that. A number of them did end up submitting their concept papers. Then after that, the U.S. Department of Energy was going to determine whether or not they would encourage or discourage school districts from submitting a full formal application. That full formal application was due at the end of April, on April 21st. Some of the school districts that we helped were encouraged. Unfortunately, more than that, were discouraged. So this was the first round of this funding opportunity that comes from the bipartisan infrastructure law. And the first round of funding, I believe, was for $80 million. They have 5 years to spend it, which means to me, unless they decide to blow it all on one award round, that there will be future funding opportunities. My bet would be that US DOE would follow the same kind of timeline. It looks like, based off of their notice of funding opportunity, that they hope to select awardees, I think by next month, the middle of next month. And then they'll spend the next couple of months in negotiations on how that award will be structured. And then at that point, they'll be off to the races starting those projects, wherever it is they're awarded in the country. And then maybe around the same time in November-ish, possibly fallish, winter of this year, DOE could announce another funding opportunity. So stay tuned. They took down the website, unfortunately, on energy.gov that was specific for Renew America's Schools. But if you do a quick Google search, you can find the NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity. There's also a slide deck that includes information on another program that they had at the same time called Energy Class Prize. I don't know what that is. Anyway, that also is closed and is passed. So stay tuned, subscribe for email updates from the U.S. Department of Energy, and expect more funding opportunities over the next couple of years, possibly even being announced this fall or winter. We do something small, much smaller, a little bit similar here at Montana DEQ called the Smart Schools program. My colleague Robin Boyle administers that. And typically, I think she has proposals due in December. Right now, we have, I believe, 9 schools that are going to be receiving $2,000 each to do different types of awards, whether it's things like what Alicia was introduced as, recycling projects, or what Sam may be speaking about later. But the Smart School program is run directly through DOE. I'm going to drop a couple of links into the chat here in a few minutes, and you all can check that out afterwards. Courtney's going to cover a lot on the electric school bus, but Montana DEQ using a portion of our Volkswagen diesel emissions settlement funding, which I'm happy to talk to you about offline, awarded the first funds for electric school buses in the state of Montana. There are 2 currently operating, first in the state up in Havre Public Schools, They went into service they were forced into service actually in December. I'm happy to answer questions later on in Q&A about how well those are performing, but I can tell you they're doing really well. And there's a number more coming through DEQ funding as well as the EPA funding that Courtney's going to discuss. And there's just a lot going on, and we're happy to offer either our insights on technical expertise, potentially funding opportunities from DEQ, as well as helping connect you with, these different entities that either make electric school buses and sell them here in Montana, or with the school districts that are receiving them this summer and fall, and put you in touch. They're all more than happy to talk about it. So thanks for the opportunity today.
Thanks so much, Neil. It's great to hear about these opportunities for our schools. Okay, we're going to move right into getting a quick overview of the EPA's EV bus program, and I'm going to hand off to Courtney Johnson. Are you there, Courtney?
Thank you. So my name again is Courtney Johnson. I work with Marissa McPhillamy, who is also on the call tonight. So we both work under the bipartisan infrastructure law for the Clean School Bus program. And we just had a 2022 rebate program that closed. And excitingly, we have a grants notice of funding opportunity that just opened last Monday, actually. So we've been busy at work notifying all the prioritized and non-prioritized schools and their school districts. So just as a brief overview, the Clean School Bus program, we have $5 billion over 5 years for the entire US. We are currently in Region 8, so we deal with Colorado, Montana, the Dakotas, Wyoming, and Utah. So just a brief overview of the notice of funding opportunity that just dropped. This is a competitive grant program, and the prioritization criteria has changed since the 2022 rebate policy. So you want to look on our websites. It has we have the notice of funding opportunity documents if you want to go ahead and look through all of that. But we also have brief details to look over just on our website, which is just the cleanschoolbus.gov. Trying to think, and Marissa, am I missing anything?
No, great job. Yeah, I think I would just highlight that, as Courtney said, the prioritizations have changed. They are different than they were under the rebate program. So make sure those are carefully reviewed. In some cases, the prioritizations have been expanded. In some cases, they, especially dealing with the definition of remote, a remote school district, that has changed. So please just make sure you're paying close attention to those prioritizations. Again, all the information that you need is on the Clean School Bus at EPA.gov website. I will make a plug for headquarters is going to offer their first webinar on that NOFO. I think it's May 10th. Again, all this information is on the website and you can register for that webinar. And I think, because of course they put everything in Eastern time, I think it's, and make sure you check this, I think it's 1 p.m. Mountain Time. But please make sure okay, thank you, Courtney. If you're interested, make sure you do take a look at that and register. Once headquarters does this first webinar, Region 8, the Clean School Bus team, we will also host some webinars as well. To be transparent, it will be, repeating most of what headquarters has talked about, because this is a competitive program. We can't get too far into the weeds in discussing projects or potential partnerships or things like that. Since it is competitive, we do have to remain impartial and make sure that everyone has access to the same information. And sort of based on that, making also a plug for submitting questions that are more detailed in nature to the Clean School Bus at EPA.gov mailbox. Headquarters will maintain a frequently asked questions document throughout the time period that this is open. And as Courtney indicated, it did open last Monday on April 24th, and it will close on August 22nd of 2023. Thanks.
And just to note real quick, if you're wondering if you are on that prioritized list, that is on our website as well. It is updated, so you can definitely check that. Like we said earlier, the prioritization has changed, so you may not have been on the list for the 2022 rebate, but you may be on the list for the grant program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Courtney and Marissa. It's super exciting. So now we're going to dive into some stories, and we're going to start with Sam Spector from Sweetgrass County High School, which is in Big Timber, to talk about energy efficiency and solar panels. And Sam, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, how do I press share screen to put my slides up? Let me see.
Yeah, you should do share screen and it should prompt you to go ahead and share.
Okay, and then here's my solar presentation. Can you guys see that now?
It says you've started it. There you go. And then you can go into present mode if you want to make it bigger.
Okay, is that better?
That's great.
Okay.
Take it away.
Thank you. My name's Sam Spector. I'm the head custodian here at Sweetgrass County High School, and I'm building operator certified level 2. And I've been at Sweetgrass County High School for now, this is my 24th year. So can you guys see all of that? Fine, okay. We're a small Class B school with 165 students located in Big Timber, Montana, next to the Yellowstone and Boulder Rivers. We're the home of the sheep herders, and yes, he is smoking a pipe. So I prepared slides. I'm going to get to the solar, but first I want to talk about what we did to get into the energy conservation and productivity. So you have to ask yourself, what can you do to save energy in your school, and how can you produce energy? So we're creating a culture of conservation, saving money, and making our schools healthier and more competitive. So since I've started this in 2001, we're down over 40%, 47%, where it's closer to 50%, and that's before our solar. And here's 30 different projects, and you can see the year by year decline in our consumption. And we're able to use that graph to communicate this with the school board and the administration on high return on investment projects. For instance, energy project number 28 was LED light retrofitting, and you can see this year the direct result of that. So our energy use index started off with $1.37 per square foot. Now we're at 53 cents. And the average and national average back when I was researching this was $1.15. So we're beating that by 46% now. And we've saved over $422,000 since 2001. And I have that based on our consumption data and our reduction in consumption. So now I've started this with looking up some resources, and Greening of American Schools, Costs and Benefits by Gregory Katz has helped me tremendously. Leadership in Environmental Design website, Green Building Council. There's some good resources there. And I adopted an energy savings plan for our school. And this was one thing that I use to help save energy. And I just want to talk briefly about executive views of green schools. There's health and well-being of occupants, worker productivity, building value, and return on investment. And this is my former superintendent, Mr. Berkeley, and without him, we wouldn't have been able to do any of the things. It really takes a team, and involving your administrator is really key. Here is our Lieutenant Governor. There's student learning opportunities. Former Lieutenant Governor Angela McLean, who started the SMART schools, working with some of our students in our SMART club. And SMART stands for Saving Money and Resources Today. And that allowed students to really participate in the school in this. And they learned a ton, and found out that just one person can make a huge difference. So we're 5-time winner of the Smart Schools Energy Award. And here is one of our first ones. And we have banners in the school that show that. So the kids were really proud of that. And with this, you get some validity of and a better public image. And so we had articles in our local newspaper. So we got some national recognition from Russell Lamp, Department of Energy, came in and toured our school, which is really cool. We've gotten to go to the governor's at the Capitol building. And at the time it was Steve Bullock and Mr. Cooney and Robin Boyle from DEQ has helped out. This was our Smart Schools coordinator at the time. So, and Bonnie Rouse from the DEQ has been a huge support and help. So you kind of can build a team. And with this, the benefits are higher productivity. There's hidden benefits like community image, reduced student absenteeism, ability to attract and retain teachers, and student performance, higher performance lighting. So it's not just solar that I wanted to talk about, but by doing all these things, like we're projected to save over $500,000 in the next 20 years, and probably more than that. So lower insurance costs, energy reliability. Here's a student that was working on one of our energy projects with one expert. So what can you do for your school? You can volunteer, collaborate with other schools, support solar projects, look for funding and grants like they're talking about today, which is great. Look for rebates, and on a personal level, you can do what you can do to conserve by shutting off lights or shutting windows, simple things. One of the big benefits from this was we got a digital control system that helped our heating and ventilation system. And so anyway, there's lots of different things you can do, but let's talk solar. So our solar project, we did get it. This is the financials of it. We got a grant for $67,000 through the Universal System Benefit Grant, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. The total cost of our project was $98,500. The cost after grant, that this is the part that we put in, was $31,338 or fundraised with. And the benefit right now, we're saving $12,000 annually. The 25-year benefit, this is an estimate, is over $250,000. We expect those panels to last for longer than 25 years though. And steps to getting solar, and I'm going to go over this, is the team build. You want to first get approval from your administration, school board, public, and student groups, design considerations, secure funding, which is great that we have that availability. So, and then I'm going to show you some of these things. So we had to think whether we were going to put it on our roof, look at our roof, or put it on a ground mount. And this is Google Earth that we used. And the site, look where we would hook up. And here's a proposed student little solar, like we could put one panel that we thought they could experiment with. And we didn't do this, but now the Universal System Grant is from Northwestern Energy, and that's what we applied for and got. And the considerations factors is school and community support, student learning opportunities, previous energy conservation measures, letters of support, and the largest that you can net meter right now is 50 kilowatts. So with this, student council president John Baxter talked to the Women's Club in trying to promote this. So you had to do some background work beforehand. We did some promotion with a flyer. This went, we got creative and put this in the grade school weekly folders to parents. And then you have to kind of, this was a pioneer article from our local newspaper. And this is what we ended up doing as a ground mount right here. And this is just a visual of what it would look like. So then we started fundraising. This is through the community foundation. We got letters of support from the DEQ, from the governor office, our local Cottonwood Resource Council, the county commissioners. So we went and talked and fundraised. Then we put out a request for proposal, and instead of doing the lowest cost one, we had a point system where we could pick the best contractor, and we put it out to all the contractors through the state. We had 5 bid the project, and then we started it. So Harvest Solar was our company, and we decided to do a ground mount. One of the considerations here is I'm just going to show you some pictures real quick. Here's the supports that they were going to do that they did, and here's them installing it. And so instead, our ground is so rocky here that they had to drill the holes. I mean, we're called, it's the Boulder River for a reason. So they basically had to, and then here's a local contractor that went, dug the trench that held the cables, the power lines. And we did put in extra conduit in case we wanted to expand this system. So that's a consideration you might want to do. If the net metering laws allow more than 50 kilowatts, we might do that in the future. So this is just some pictures of them doing this. And actually the implementation of doing this didn't take much, as long as actually the planning preparation took much longer. It's kind of like painting. 90% of the preparation is it's preparation, not the actual painting. So here's an electrician with the inverter. There's them starting. Now here is our consumption versus our production data, and you can see that different months we produce more. Like the most we produce, this red curve, is in July, but we consume more than we produce. So really, we're using all of it on site basically. And we can do that from the consumption data month by month and the generation. And we produce close to, in July, close to 73% of our needs. So anyway, this is 4 years data. We have a solar dashboard that is in the cafeteria, and we're producing about 26% of the school needs. So the students can see this. So over the next 10 years, currently we're saving over $45,000 annually, and you can think of where you can spend these dollars. So I encourage all the schools to participate in this grant opportunity. And that's it. Thank you very much. Let's see, what do I need to do now to?
You need to press stop screen share, which is, I think, at the bottom under the screen share button.
Okay, let me see if I can figure it out.
We meant to run through that before we got going, but that's all right.
What about pause share? You see.
There you go. You got it.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Wonderful. Michelle, do you want to introduce our next speaker again?
Yeah, and thank you, Sam. That was a great presentation. I love how you ran through all the outreach you did and how you celebrated the wins. It was a real full story. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. I'm really excited to introduce Alicia Xiangward, who works with the Park High Green Initiative and has some similar stories about using smart schools, building community energy and fundraising and solar panels. Alicia's a leader in our community, beloved by the kids, and continues to help them reach their goals through the Park High Green Initiative. So thank you so much, Alicia, for all that you do for our community and for sharing the story of what you guys have done and plan to do at Park High.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. That was really nice introduction. And thanks for coming a bit more prepared than I am, Sam, because we have a very similar pathway that we took. And so it would just be redundant if I had made a bunch of slides as well. Yeah, so Michelle mentioned that I run the Park High Green Initiative, which is basically just like a club, if you will, of young people at Park High who have taken it upon themselves to really place themselves into like the environmental movement in the state of Montana. And so, yeah, we started out with the very first like dollars we got were for a recycling program, and we presented in front of what's called the Livingston Soup, and we won $1,000 to really try and like buy all of the gear that we needed to do the recycling in the school ourselves, which included these like reusable purple gloves that we started wearing every Wednesday when we went through the recycle bins. And that's what we won our first Smart Schools Challenge with. And then we even got Lieutenant Governor Cooney to come to the school and put on the purple gloves and go through the garbage and the recycling with us. So that was really great. And then once we got that $1,000, we were like, the kids are always in charge of everything that we do. So we were like, okay, what do you want to do with this money? And one of them was like, we want solar panels. And I was like, oh man, that's going to be hard and it's going to take a long time. And they're like, we don't care. And so that first $1,000, they started a bank account with it. And then we applied for a grant through the DEQ, and we got a great, the first grant we got was through the DEQ for $6,000. We too got a USB grant. I think ours was only about like $35,000, and our entire 50 kilowatt system was $120,000. And ours was a little bit more expensive than Sam's because ours is on our roof, and our roof was built or our school was built in 2012. And because it was a pretty new school, because I think we started this endeavor in 2018, they were like, you are not drilling holes in the roof of this school. So we had to pay a little bit more to get an entire ballasted, ballasted situation so that none of our, even in windy Livingston, not one of our solar panels is drilled into the roof of the high school. So it just has a lot of different like ways to like balance and control like the weight and the wind, and nothing's ever moved with it. A couple of things that I will say is that through Montana State University, gosh, in like the early 2010s, maybe even before that, people like they were putting up smaller solar panels and smaller like wind turbines and stuff like that. And Livingston schools, particularly Park High, had both of those things already. And to get the USB grant through Northwest Energy, we had to relocate those things. And so if you come to Park High, you will see a wind turbine in the parking lot, but it's actually, it can't be used because of the way that the USB grant works. We had to move some solar panels off of like our like rec, it's not really rec center, it's like where the hot dogs get sold at the football games. There used to be solar panels on that roof, and we relocated that to a city-owned building where the soccer team plays. And so as you're applying for grant, like the USB grant, just like, no, there's going to be some like different like loopholes and stipulations that you're going to have to jump through for that. We do have a dashboard in like the schools that students can see, or like, so they can see like how much energy is being created every day. And so that's really exciting to use. I used to be the physics teacher at the high school when I was doing all of this. And so like, that was really easy to like bring into the classroom and talk about different stuff like that. And yeah, like all of our grants, I mean, I had something to do with it, but all of our grants that we wrote were written by teenagers as well. And so anybody who's like watching this, that you're like, wow, that's going to take a lot of time. The way that we gave teenagers time to do this, because they're all really busy as well. We gave them independent studies where they learned how to research and write grants and be able to have this like adult communication with the engineers, with the different like groups that we partnered with, like Michelle and PCEC, and it was really a wonderful use of everybody's time. And I think that's what I got for that, and we can answer questions later, but try to keep us on time.
Thank you, Alicia. That's perfect, because I think that the story of Park High is really kind of student-led, and it seems like Sam and the administration was really key there. And I think that for each school, it's really different. So I thank you so much. And then our next speaker, Winona, do you want to introduce our next speaker, please?
Sure. Thank you so much. That I have been really interested in about what happened, to get your solar panels on your school in Livingston. And it's just really exciting to hear that story. Yes. And next we are going to welcome Bethany Aron with hopefully I'm saying your name correctly, Bethany. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Joining us from the West Grand School District in Kremling, Colorado, and to talk about clean school buses and how they're performing for their district. Take it away, Bethany.
All right. Thank you guys so much for inviting me to participate in this. And Sam, I wish we could recruit you to move to Colorado, because I feel like the resiliency in our district, if we lose power, we can't use our electric bus. And so I've been trying hard to invite our district to delve into solar. And so both you and Alicia, thank you guys. What a cool thing. And Courtney, thank you for EPA, even though you rejected our application this year. But anyway, I am the transportation director for the Kremling School District. And sorry, we've had our first thunderstorm of the year, which took the internet out at my house. So I was a little tardy joining, but Kremling's a pretty cool town. It's a little bit quirky. Some people call it Kremtucky. Our school district has, I think our student enrollment is about 275 students, K-12. We are very fortunate in that we have a very progressive rural electric cooperative. And so it's Mountain Parks Electric, and Chris Michalowski is kind of their EV guy. And he first started proposing to our district, considering an electric bus or an electric fleet. And we have a new superintendent now, but our superintendent at the time and our current superintendent were very supportive. We also use the Volkswagen dollars. Our electric bus cost about $400,000 for the bus and about $35,000 for the charger. I hope, if Courtney's still on, that the EPA or you could lobby with the EPA a little bit to consider the charger, more charger support as well, because the district we're West Grand, we have East Grand School District, two school districts in our county, and they were awarded funding through the EPA for 2 buses, and the additional costs not covered by the EPA grant for 2 buses is $350,000. And when you're a poor rural small school district, that is an enormous ask for your district and your community. So we're very fortunate in Colorado that our Governor Polis is very supportive, and he has agreed to help support them with those costs. But we use the Volkswagen dollars for $325,000 of our bus purchase price. And then the $75,000 that we didn't have, Mountain Parks Electric, our local electric cooperative, opted. They have a very robust educational fund. And I've since learned that a lot of districts in the Mountain West, the electric cooperatives have a significant educational fund. So I would encourage anybody to reach out to them as a resource as well. But anyway, our bus was a 2020 that it's a Bluebird Type D. Those of you not familiar, school buses, it's the kind that doesn't have a hood. And we were the first one in the state of Colorado to have an electric Type D school bus. Boulder, of course, also we got our buses delivered the same week. They had a Type C, which has the hood. And Boulder, to their credit, also has the first electric fire engine for their fire department in the state of Colorado. But we received our bus in 2021. We put it into service in April of 2021, and it started on a fairly level route. The route that has the least elevation gain. I wasn't the transportation director at that time. I was just a route driver, and our director was nervous about how the bus would perform, so put it on the easiest route, and it did really, really well. He left a month later by default. I've been in the school transportation industry about 25 years, 8 years of college, 3 degrees, and I was a school bus driver when my first daughter started kindergarten. My mom was thrilled, but I love it. And I can't say enough positive about the benefit that this bus has been to our district. It has, we only have, we're small, kind of like Sam's district. We only have three routes. One of them is 98 miles a day, one is 52 miles a day, and I drive the third, which is about 75 miles a day. And my route is definitely very topographically challenged. It's a secondary road. They don't plow it. They say from 5 at night till 7 in the morning. And I'm always first tracks in the winter. We have, the elevation here is about 7,500 feet. And the top of my route is about 9,600 feet. It's winter here as much as it's summer, like lots of Montana. It's windy. Though I'm bummed to hear that, because well, story for another day, but we associate wind more with Wyoming than Montana. And we can get into a bunch of jokes about why Wyoming's so windy but anyway, sorry, I'm going to try to stay on task. So our roads are often icy and snow-packed and rarely plowed. I've driven our bus through probably 2.5-foot drifts routinely, 3-foot drifts infrequently, but probably 1 to 2 dozen times a winter. I have heard, ours is a Bluebird. We have heard feedback from other Bluebird people that they're concerned about the battery diminishing when you turn the heater on. And we're very fortunate that we have heated bus bays for our route buses. So our bus lives in a bus barn that's 65 degrees pretty much year round. So the cabin is pretty warm as soon as I start out, and I put the heater on and I keep it on the entire time. And I keep it on probably 75% of the school year, 75 to 80%. And at the most, I've noticed, on the days when it's 30 or 40 below, probably seeing a 10 to 11% diminishment in the battery life, but its performance has been outstanding. I was concerned about the brake regen on the icy snowpack roads because it's uphill the whole way out and downhill the whole way home, and I've never lost traction. It has been an amazing addition to our fleet. It's also been phenomenal because the operating costs are incredible. Mountain Parks Electric put in a pedestal just for the bus so we could monitor what it's costing, and not just try to guess from our building bill. And it started, the first year it was 19 cents per mile. It went up to 26 cents per mile last year, but or the last school year. And last school year it was 56 or 54 cents a mile just for diesel to operate. The rest of our fleet is diesel buses, and that doesn't take into account the oil changes and the filters and fuel filters, oil filters, the fuel water filters. I mean, it's a joy to pre-trip. There's, pretty much you check your cabin features and then your tires, but fluid wise, all you need to do is look at the coolant level. And so it's an easy, quick, it doesn't add any extra labor to have that bus as part of our fleet. We are trying to get grants for 2 more. It's my dream that we can have, even though we only have 3 routes, if we had 3 electric buses, we could be the first 100% electric fleet in the state of Colorado. So that is my goal. So if Courtney can put any kudos in for us with the EPA, we'd be super grateful for that. But anyway, it's been a great source of pride for our community. And the students love it. It's super cool. As an operator, you can hear kids in the very back of the bus. You can hear kids in the front. You can have great conversations with all your students. Another thing that I've noticed, just awareness wise, since we got this bus, is a lot of the schools that we visit, for some reason, a lot of the air intake systems on a lot of the campuses are for some reason located near the bus loops. And I think that's horrifying when you look at the emissions coming out of a diesel bus, a little bit better on a gasoline bus, but it's still, it was, my personal awareness has been enhanced, I think, a lot from having this bus in our fleet. A few things to think about is there is additional driver training. There's an element of the federal pre-trip in functions that you have to do on a daily basis with every school bus, any commercial vehicle. And one of the brake tests, you cannot perform on an electric vehicle. And so when the state tried to tell us that, we couldn't use our bus because it couldn't fulfill this component of the 5-part brake test, I reached out to California, found out what they did, proposed it to Colorado. It took less than 10 days from start to finish. But that might be something Montana will need to address as well. And I've shared with Elizabeth kind of a fact sheet that she's welcome to share with all you guys on everything from cost to driver training to all kinds of stuff. So feel free to avail yourselves of that. Another concern I have on a personal level, being the first district to have an electric bus, is there's a huge lack of infrastructure. We purchased a Clipper Creek level 2 charger. The bus will do, 35, 36 miles in the morning, come back, we plug it in. We do a quick shuttle at 3 o'clock from our middle school campus to our high school campus, and then leave it unplugged. And at 4 o'clock, we do another, 36, 37 miles. And the level 2 charger performs really well, but it's a bummer to have such a low emissions vehicle only be able to be a route bus. So I've reached out to our electric cooperatives to try to encourage them to put chargers in at campuses near us. You know, I feel I personally want to keep at least 25% of my battery available, like all the time. So I feel like, you know, with our weather and road conditions, we have the largest battery that you can get. I feel comfortably we can probably drive that bus 110 to 120 miles a day. So I'd like to drive it less, like 90 to 95 miles. And we can't go back and forth. You know, our closest district is about an 85-mile round trip. So I might risk that, but that's the other district that's going to be getting 2 electric buses. So we'll definitely be using it for activity and athletic trips to that school. But we have 3 other schools besides that one that we travel to a lot for athletics, and it would really be nice if they could go ahead and install chargers on their campuses so that the bus could get out of our valley. We did not do, there's a thing called V2G, vehicle to grid. We did not do that with our bus just because, you know, I think if we had solar or some more supportive infrastructure and a little bit more resiliency, you know, I think solar would be a huge good thing for us. That might be something to consider for districts, but I think that, you know, if you're in a mountain town, V2G is not going to maybe be an option for you. But the other thing to think about too is just that charger funding. So resources that were really valuable for us were our Bluebird dealer, which is north of Denver, but they were incredibly knowledgeable and helpful in our decision. There's also a group that I'd encourage everybody, even though it's Colorado and not Montana, it's called Clean Cities, and it's in Fort Collins. And there's 2 gentlemen, Diego Lopez and Jason Green, that I know would love to visit with you guys. They're all about alternative energy, and they're phenomenal resources on a federal and state level in Colorado, but also the whole Western US. So I'd really encourage you to reach out to Clean Cities if you would like. And I think, you know, our printer has not come back online from the little storm, but so I'm just going from a few notes, but I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. I cannot say anything negative at all about electric school buses. They perform incredibly well. The traction is great. The reliability is great. The enthusiasm of our community and our students. We're trying to encourage, we have a new VOAG teacher, and we're trying to encourage her to incorporate the electric bus into some of the automotive classes. And it's been nothing but a blessing for our whole community. And I'm so hopeful that we can be that first district to have 100% electric vehicles. But also please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. We're West Grand School District, so my email is Aurin, AURINB @wgsd.us, and I'd love to support you guys in any way that I can, because I think it's there's no downside at all, and nothing but benefits, and for the community and for the students. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Oh man, Bethany, thank you for coming and joining us tonight here in Montana on Zoom. It's just, I just felt myself starting to get really giddy as you were talking. I was like, it's so exciting to just hear the glowing reviews and hear your expertise on the subject. So thank you so much for joining us. And we'll get to questions in just a minute. We're running a few minutes behind, but I want to give McKenna, we have one more expert joining us tonight, McKenna Sellers with Montana Renewable Energy Association. And I want to give her just a minute to introduce herself and her organization.
Yes, and I can go through this quickly, but hi, everyone. And I got my introduction from Michelle at the start here, so I don't need to go into that, but McKenna Sellers, and I work for the Montana Renewable Energy Association. So great to be a part of this partnership. And just thinking back, so I live in Helena now, I'm a few blocks from the capital, but I went to school in Billings, Montana. And it's very visceral for me just thinking back to the cross-country days in middle school and high school, where you just circumvent the buses after school because, you know, just the cloud of exhaust that you wanted to avoid. It was inherent. And so I think it's so wonderful that we have this opportunity to do better for future students. So that's not even on their minds to think about how can I avoid the buses lined up and running at my cross country or track practice. So I think it's really special to be able to see this firsthand knowledge. So thanks for the opportunity to be here. A little bit about MREA. So think of us as the renewable energy hub for Montana as we're bringing this all together, as we're thinking about how to bring more federal dollars, or just in general, how can we deploy more EV and solar for Montana schools? So MREA is made up of households, students, businesses, local governments, solar installers, and all these different energy professionals that make up what I call the renewable energy ecosystem of Montana. It's a people ecosystem, but I think that's the best way that I can describe the mission and function of MREA. And so these are all people who want to see renewable energy thrive in our state. Our vision is that one day renewable energy will not only be a major economic driver for Montana, but it'll power so many different aspects of our lives. We're striving for this vision through education on things like going solar, the latest on solar loan financing for homes and businesses, electrification and efficiency, and empowering Montanans from all walks of life with the tools that they need to take control of their energy decisions. We also work on the policy side in workforce development and advocacy. We're active in the sectors where clean energy decisions are made. Sometimes that's in the Capitol building, sometimes that's with the governor's office or at the Montana Public Service Commission. We also offer an MREA installer directory as a helpful way to find solar and other renewable energy professionals in your area. Harvest Solar, one that Sam mentioned, is a longtime MREA member, and you can see the owner of Harvest Solar, Brad Van Wert, in this photo in the red tie. So kind of fun to tie that all together. And then the folks in the gray jacket and the black Patagonia, those guys are from Solar Montana in Helena. So MREA is a great place to start when you're thinking about who does this work in Montana and who can I call up, even just to give me a bid or a concept or find out if solar would be viable at our school property. And then on the industry engagement side, as you all know, we need to grow the renewable energy workforce of Montana, but then also of the US, of the United States. And I know that that's a federal priority of this administration. And so we're working in all the ways that we can to connect the dots for training and let our young people know that the energy industry and the energy sector is a place where there are really strong careers. Sometimes I don't think those dots are connected as well as they could be in Montana, because people often think, okay, I'll go, if I want to be in the clean energy sector, I'm going to go do that work in Seattle. I'm going to do that work in Portland. But part of MREA's work is to find the inroads for students to see that a career in renewables, a career in the solar industry can happen in Montana, and it's real and it's happening every day. So I want you all to consider 3 things before we jump into questions. You've heard it before, but I know we're talking about federal dollars for Montana schools, but think about state level grants too. Sam brought up the USB funding that every Northwestern Energy customer actually pays into, that pot of money that's delivered through USB grants. Think about the policies for specifically solar. I'm talking solar right now, but of your energy service provider. Bethany mentioned that her school is in co-op territory, and at least for Montana, a lot of the co-ops have different policies as far as the capacity limits. If you're going to be net metered, that means if you're going to be grid tied, if your solar system at your school is going to be grid tied, there might be just different policies depending on who your energy service provider is. And that's the type of thing that MREA can help guide you through, start answering those questions. And then for those here right now in person or those listening to the recording, I want you to take a little moment, pat yourself on the back, and realize that you already know the people who know the answers. Even if you can't figure out every single component of your project yourself, you can look around this room, this virtual room, and say, I know that I can call up Sam Spector and ask him a question. I know I can call Alicia about the student and education portion. I know I can call up Bethany, even in Colorado, and start to answer some of these little questions to take projects that seem insurmountable with the work and capacity and then make them into reality. Thinking about what Sam said about building a team, here's a team right here. So I think that's really powerful, and I feel really inspired just being on this call with everyone. And that's just the lowdown about MREA, and we're happy to help. Last thing I will do is the shameless plug. If you want to see more of this type of content, get yourself over to Billings this summer. If you're looking at trying to connect dots for solar and renewable energy and just efficiency transitions for your school, this would be an excellent workshop to attend. August 12th, MREA, the Montana Renewable Energy Association, we host this summer fair every year, and we do really awesome workshops and lineups on EV deployment. Whether it's you're a school or a household or a business, there's going to be something for you at the fair, as well as vendors. Just thinking about the renewable energy hub that MREA represents, they're all going to be there in Billings on August 12th. So you can use that QR code, and then I can also put some of these links in the chat. And that's my quick and speedy overview, but excited to get to questions here. So I'll stop there.
Well, thank you, McKenna. That was really great. Thank you to all of our speakers. I think we'll just go ahead and dive right into questions, right, Winona? We do have some in the chat. So do you want to pull up? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it looks like I'll jump in because I've been watching them a little bit.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah, McKenna asked, and I think this is maybe for Courtney, or anyone who wants to answer, but they'd love to know what other schools are getting EV buses this summer and fall in Montana.
Yeah, so we actually have a Clean School Bus interactive map where you can track where they're getting the school buses for the 2022 rebates. So it looks like in Montana, there's Fairfield Elementary, Clinton Elementary, and Big Fork Elementary. Those are the three Montana that are getting school buses with this rebate.
That's really cool.
That are getting the EPA award. Sorry to cut in, Caitlin. So DEQ also funded 3 other school districts for electric school buses. So I dropped in the chat a Havre Daily News story. Havre has it right now, 2 electric school buses. East Helena is also going to be receiving a Type D like Bethany has, but from a different bus manufacturer. Then First Student, which provides bus services for, among other school districts, Billings, is going to be receiving 8. Working with all 6 of those entities, including the EPA funded ones, we didn't want to wish them the best of luck. And so we're providing technical assistance for them to do route planning, charging profiles, making sure, as Bethany said, that you don't just put it on the easiest one first. You can plan ahead and put them on tougher routes because these things perform amazingly.
Oh, thank you so much, Neil. That's so great. And Neil, obviously you guys have all seen, has dropped so many great resources in the chat. And so we'll be able to compile those. So appreciate that. All right, Sam, Elizabeth asked, when people weren't fully on board with your efficiency and solar ideas, what were your biggest concerns or worries?
I have to think about that for a little bit. Okay, can you repeat the question just to get my mind around it again?
Yeah, do you want to clarify, Elizabeth?
Sure. Yeah, I'm just curious, when you had reluctance from your administration or your school board, like what were they worried about? What were their biggest concerns?
You know, I really, we had when we first started, we tried to get a fully funded solar array that was only going to be 15 kilowatts, and they turned it down. But then when we went to the 50 kilowatt, you know, we had a different school board, and we had support, and so. But even still, there was 2 board members that did not were adamant, 2 out of the 7 that were adamantly against it and actively promoting against it. And they never said their why they wouldn't, why they didn't want it. So I can't speak for them for that. But they ended up, you know, being in the minority, and then we went ahead and did it, and the results have been fantastic. So we think about the positives there. So I don't really have a clear reason why. I can just be, I really don't know is the answer. So.
I can answer like some of the questions. Like I've had to go in front of the school board and ask for all sorts of stuff. And it always comes down to, first of all, money. Like how much is this going to cost us? And I had to be like, I promise it's not going to cost you anything. It's just going to save money every year when it came to the solar panels. And that was like, because nobody ever just gives schools money. And so it was really hard for them to just digest and be like, okay. And we've been working on like EV buses for a while too. And a lot of the things that come back to me are, we don't know how to work on them. There's no one local that can work on them. Like they're just really nervous that it's going to take more energy and more money and just kind of like more from them. And schools are already like, so they're already spread so thin. And so that's always some of the biggest worries for them. And so that's why programs like this that you guys are putting on to help support schools are really, really great. So thank you.
You know, one of the things I remember, that you're absolutely right about the money. They were very concerned about that and whether it would pay off, but also they were also concerned about how much time it would take me and out of my regular job. So I volunteered my time just so I could circumvent that concern. And I feel very passionate about giving to the community, but thank you, Alicia, for helping me remember a little bit more.
Well, I think this dovetails in really well into the next question of, okay, now you've been saving all this money, Sam and Bethany, what is your schools doing with that extra savings?
I can go ahead and say, for our district, we're putting it towards being able to enlarge our electric vehicle fleet. Along with it, I don't think it was really touched on, but the EPA is for any low emission vehicles, that grant. And Courtney could speak better to that than I can, but you know, the CNG is compressed nitrogen gas. We have no access to that in our community. But we do have the potential for propane. And it's kind of interesting that our school board here feels that electric vehicles are safer than propane vehicles. And something that I neglected to mention earlier was that our fire department has also been super engaged. I invited them to come over and study our bus when it first arrived, you know, in the event that it was ever struck by another vehicle or whatever, and so that they would be familiar with where all the shutoffs and things like that are. So it's been a great teaching tool, not only for our students, but also for the fire department. But you know, I don't want to say that electric vehicles are the only vehicles out there, and they're definitely the most expensive of the low emission vehicles. But, you know, other than the cost, I can't really think of a negative. So we're trying to funnel the savings for that we have. It's the goal of our district that we might need to purchase one more diesel athletic or trip bus. And that other than that, we'll be able to have a good enough infrastructure that we'll be able to utilize our electric vehicles a lot more.
And if you don't mind, just to bounce off that, Bethany, thank you for that. So like she said, we offered the electric, propane, and compressed natural gas, or CNG. And I think the main lesson that we learned and the applicants learned was to work with your utility provider, even if you're just interested, just having that discussion and figuring out what type of bus is best for you. Like we have an example where one applicant was really excited about propane, and he discussed this with his utility provider, and it turns out propane wasn't the best option. So just getting in that conversation early and figuring out, once again, just what works best with your routes, the weather. There's a whole bunch of different considerations to look at. So once you have that conversation, you'll have a better idea of how to move forward with the program.
And I'd like to just add real quick, Courtney, that I was with the Steamboat Springs School District in Colorado for 22 years prior to our school district here. And we had quite a few propane buses in our fleet, and they also performed really well in the cold weather. They outperformed diesel buses in the cold weather. And it's, as a transportation director, it's encouraging that it's very easy to find propane. It's almost as easy to find propane as diesel if you're traveling, 100 or 200 miles away for an athletic or activity trip. So I would encourage everybody to just think about trying to reduce the number of fossil fuel vehicles in your fleet. CNG is tough. There's I think it's Bennett, Colorado, that has a CNG plant there. So 100% of their fleet is CNG. We have absolutely no access to CNG here. So, like Courtney was saying, that took that off the table immediately for us. But I would just encourage anybody, I can't say enough good about our electric bus, but its limitations are the charging infrastructure. So if you're concerned about that, please look at propane, because the emissions are so much better than diesel buses. And I too, as a route driver, and we live in states that are cold. So, it's not like your buses have to idle. Or they're going to be freezing cold when the students go to get on them every afternoon, and they have to idle to warm up before you put students on them every morning. And it is really hard now that I'm driving an electric bus to look at the buses behind me and the emissions coming out of them, and the ventilation system for our school being right there. So anyway.
Okay, this is so wonderful. I'm so excited about this discussion. It looks like we have another question in the chat. Why the changes to the Clean School Bus Program? In other words, why the 15 bus change? And I'm going to throw that over to the EPA to answer. And also, just a note, we'll take one or two more questions after this, and then we're going to have to wrap up. Okay, Courtney?
Yeah, so Region 8, one of our problems was just small prioritization, rural, remote, just trying to broaden the reach for all the schools. But because this is a competitive grant program, that's why I believe they did a 15 bus minimum. So it's us working hard to reach out to as many school districts, whether it be large, whether it be small, to figure out how to approach this. This is Marissa, if you want to also jump in, but yeah, I guess it's just because we're looking at the entire US and region 8's working our hardest to get as many people to apply as possible for 15 buses. And I know that's a lot of buses, but there also are different routes that applicants can take to apply, which again is on our website or on the notice of funding opportunity.
Thank
I see
you.
Marissa, you went off mute. I don't know if we can hear her.
I can't hear her. Marissa, do you have something to add? Okay. You could type in the chat if for whatever reason your audio is not working, Marissa. We are going to share all the resources tonight in a follow-up email to all the registered participants and everyone who's joined us as an expert and a panelist. We'll share the resources with everyone. Again, I'm with Families for a Livable Climate, and we will be posting the recording and all the resources as a blog post on our website, in addition to emailing it out, and we'll share it with our broader list as well. And I'm sure moms will be sharing it, and we'll be spreading the word across our different groups. Any other questions before we wrap up tonight? So much good information. Oh, it looks like I got a message from Marissa. For some reason, it came just to me. It says changes were made as EPA received feedback that the rebate program didn't meet the needs of larger districts. So rebates were only able to apply for 25 buses. Okay. So any other questions or comments from our guests? Okay, well, I really want to thank all of the participants, everyone who registered. I know a lot of you are going to be watching this recording because it's a beautiful day for the first time in 8 months in Montana. So thank you for coming or registering to get the information. Many thanks to all of our panelists and experts. This has been so inspiring. I feel like it's really great to talk about the world as we want to see it and how to get there, a roadmap for getting there. So I appreciate everyone. Michelle, do you want to add anything?
No, thank you. Appreciate you guys so much, and can't wait to see more renewable energy and clean school buses across Montana and Colorado. And Bethany, we're cheering for you. 2 more buses. Yeah, come on. You can do it.
All right. Well, everyone have a great night. We will follow up with the resources. Thank you so much for your time. See you soon.